Hi all, thank you so much for having me here tonight. It's great to be with all of you and get to learn from and about all of the amazing work going on around Coast Salish territories here. I'm here in Duwamish territory in Seattle or West Seattle this evening, and I have some slides to share with you all about ongoing work and projects, but I like how Zarna introduced their work as well, because there are so many things, that we are in need of support, that we're working towards and supporting collaboratively and uplifting other Indigenous communities. So yeah, some of those things going all the way back to Shell No water protection, working on big oil and gas campaigns, reducing resource extraction, and providing and helping in mutual aid for support of Native, Black, and Indigenous cultures, and local communities that are still fighting every day, and still exist and are still here, and need as much recognition and support as possible to lead us in new ways around shifting out of capitalism and colonial tactics that are just destroying this planet. So lots of things ongoing there with water protection, land protection here locally, but also globally, that we want to be aware of. But one of the projects that we're working on here in Seattle, that began during COVID as a land back project, that is kind of titled the Herons Nest. That's the space, the physical space itself. It's 3.5 acres of ancestral Duwamish land located in Seattle, along the Duwamish River, just above the Duwamish Longhouse. So I'm going to share my screen, and I have a couple slides to share with you all tonight, and then I can go into that a little bit more. So this is kind of just an overview. I can read this. In fall 2020, Shared Spaces began cleanup efforts of a dilapidated 3.5 acre site. This is an ancestral site that was used for burial ground areas, also harvesting and hunting right along the Duwamish River, as you can see in the video here. And it is a completely volunteer-led project in support of the tribe and also other Coast Salish.
Or even Andrew said, we could host like the next journey, the canoe journey, like in the future. I honestly, when I came up here today, because we do culture classes once a month, and I really see us coming up here to like strip seeger and learning more just about the land and about our people, and just regaining some of that knowledge back and some of that culture back that we lost.
Well, and so that work is continuing today. I guess I'll keep playing that for a little bit. I was going to show a different slide as well. So yeah, lots of ongoing work to be able to reduce financial burdens and a lot of physical burdens as well that comes along with doing restorative work, because we've seen such huge impacts throughout colonialism and industrialization, specifically in the Duwamish River Valley. Such high amounts of pollution, right? The Duwamish River is a Superfund site. It's the second largest estuary in the country, but we've in less than 150 years have completely pretty much destroyed the sound. Yeah, so I'm getting a little distracted. This is another slide that I can read out, kind of describing the process of this. Yeah, working towards being able to uplift Coast Salish leaders in these territories and being able to activate these spaces through use of sustainable educational practices, traditional knowledge sharing, skill building and community building, and providing access to resources and mutual aid, because all of these things are necessary, to break out of that system, and especially working with youth and youth mentorship in alternatives to types of education than what is, provided and skewed throughout, systemic systems of public education or privatized schooling. So that is one of the huge parts of the mission of this work, is to also activate these spaces by community building and inclusion, not only for uplifting Indigenous, sovereignty, but also empowering our marginalized communities that are existing around these areas and living in these areas, so we can work together to be able to make that bigger change. So through this project, we're focusing on water protection around the Duwamish River, protection of Indigenous lands and forest ways. We're helping manage the last remaining green belts here in Seattle, because ongoing industrialization is still continuing to this day to really heavily impact these areas. And because of the connection of the water that binds all of us together around this entire planet, it all affects everything around us. So by focusing on not only repairing or maintaining what is left and what hasn't, been completely degraded, but also figuring out and working with different communities to be able to move forward, and how can we, salvage our soils, air, water, forests, when they've seen such heavy impact over such a short amount of time. So that's a lot of the work that we do up there. And this is, kind of a list of ways that the space is activated and that the tribe utilizes this area. So waste removal, land restoration, support in fundraising, and financial removal of financial burden by being able to support financially in these land back movements and projects, community access, free educational programming focused on reality in the sustainable practices, in the reality of being able to understand the history of what's got us here, and the changes that we can make to better the future, or hopefully, be able to maintain the future that we're going into for generations to come. So also food programs in partnership with lots of other local farmers and organizations, being able to upcycle and reuse materials, trade skills, and share that. And again, this is all completely volunteer based. So there's a lot of different ways here in Seattle that people can participate and do. And also being able to coordinate with a lot of youth groups and school groups. So that's one of the main ways that the space is activated, is by hosting a lot of youth groups that come through that can learn about native and medicinal plants and the impacts that are continuing to affect marginalized communities in these areas and beyond, but also ways that they can get involved and build this, next generations to prepare for not only extreme climate change, but also a shift within our capitalist structures that we're here within. So I'm gonna stop sharing that. Cool. Well, thank you all, yeah, for having me today. I think my time is up. I'll post in the chat here links to some other projects that we're working on, but I'm really amazed by the work that you all are doing and happy to be here with you. Thank you. Pass it back to Patch.